more on this. I want to bring in a man who knows a lot about that program. Neil Patel is here. He's my friend, my longtime boss, co-founder and publisher over at the Daily Caller News Foundation. And importantly for this conversation, Check Your Fact, which has long been one of the fact-checking operations involved in Facebook's third-party fact-checking groups. Neil, good to talk to you as always.
Vince, good to be here.
Okay, let's so the basics here. Check Your Fact is a Daily Caller affiliated fact-checking operation, and it's been a part of this program. Give people a sense of what you had in mind as we set this up.
Well, Facebook came to us, and they were setting up this whole fact check program, and most of the companies doing the fact checks were left-leaning. So we thought there needed to be some balance in that system, and we were basically the balance. And I'm actually proud of the work our guys did in pushing back and adding some reality to a system that was dominated by, really left-wing kind of political actors.
Right.
And in my mind, the system itself, I think Community Notes is actually a better way to handle this. I think the people who pushed Zuckerberg to do this wanted to censor conservatives. In essence, they blamed the free flow of information on Donald Trump's first election, and they wanted to stop it. They can't win in the political arena, so
Right.
stopping people from being able to discuss issues openly is like one of their strategies. It's disgusting. It's anti-American. And Facebook went along with it, and it could have worked a little better if Facebook wasn't so intimidated by these left-leaning organizations and didn't let them run wild, but they did, and it got totally out of control. So I guess it is good news that they're scrapping it.
Yes.
Certainly, one can laugh about the timing, but yeah, it's better. And honestly, there have been good players at Facebook this whole time who wanted to do the right thing and who didn't want to censor. And it does seem like they're having an opportunity now to exert more pressure. I think this scrapping of this program, things like adding Dana White on the board, those are good signs. I haven't analyzed the entire board, but my guess is it's pretty left-leaning still, but
Yeah.
at least it's better to put a Dana White on there.
Mhm.
So these are all things I think we should celebrate. I think we should kind of allow ourselves to laugh a little bit at the timing of the whole thing at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, it is funny. The power of the fact-checking organizations that were involved in all of this. I see today some of these groups, they're claiming, well, we didn't do any censoring. All we did was write articles about what was true and what wasn't. It was Facebook that decided to censor, which is goofy, right? Because the fact-checking organizations, they knew that as soon as they slapped one of these labels onto a piece of content, that it would disappear from Facebook, right?
Yeah, in essence, it definitely gets downgraded severely, and they know that. And it is about censorship if you do it wrong. The reality is there are completely fake things that get posted to Facebook, and
Sure.
oftentimes these are posted for financial reasons. They're trying to sucker people into doing something, or for political reasons, but they're totally fake. And I don't think it's crazy to have somebody be able to post on there that we've looked into this, we think it's fake, and then in the free flow of ideas, people can look at that and
Right.
decide for themselves. The problem is that wasn't how the system worked, and that wasn't how the people who were hired, the vast majority of the people who were hired to sort of operate under the system were doing it. What
Yeah.
they were doing is taking controversial political topics, and you and I, you live in this world, Vince. Like, things are complicated. It's not that often actually that most issues have like a hard black and white. There's like gradations in between, and people have different opinions and very subjective kind of views on all these things.
Yes.
And when people try to take a fact check program and use it to decide sensitive political topics in ways where you can't talk about immigration or transgenderism or so many of COVID or so many other issues in an open way because you're violating somebody else's idea of what you're supposed to be able to talk about or not, that's un-American.
Right.
And it was done way too often in this system, and it has a huge effect, including on elections. So it was really bad,
Yes.
and I'm glad it's gone. I hope that this isn't just blowing in the wind. Trump got elected. What happens in 4 years, we'll see. But let's be hopeful, I guess.
And as you point out, it was mostly left-wing organizations, almost entirely, except for the Daily Caller, who had any role in this system whatsoever on Facebook. And as a result, there were lots of conservatives and conservative news outlets who had their content suppressed by that censorship regime. It was hard to fight back against it. But I noticed that if it ever went the opposite direction, the left lost its mind. So there's I've been pointing people to an event in March of 2020. Politico ran an article claiming that Donald Trump had called the coronavirus a hoax. In fact, that was untrue. And Check Your Fact, the Daily Caller, pointed out that Politico was lying, that was untrue, that Donald Trump had said that the politicizing of COVID by the left was their latest hoax, not that COVID itself was a hoax. In other words, Politico was lying. Yep. And so Check Your Fact imposes a fact check on that particular piece of content. And as a result, Politico's article got suppressed on Facebook. It wasn't able to reach a wider audience. And the left, Neil, as I remember then, and I'm now looking back at the contemporaneous coverage, they lost their mind. They hated that you and the Daily Caller had any role in moderating this and establishing what was true and what was not. I mean, that experience should have been instructive that this was a terrible system in the first place.
Absolutely. And, look, this is all about power. And this is all about a much bigger system of censorship that starts with government funding, includes corporate funding, left-wing university funding, and it is pervasive. It is these sort of safety offices at all these social media platforms are dominated by left-wing characters, and the funding flows through the whole system, and it's designed to sway what people see. And in a democracy, when you don't have the free flow of information, and in essence, that's what this is stopping the free flow of information, the battle of ideas, right? We can all debate things openly.
Yeah.
This gets in the way of that, and you can't have that in a democracy. And it's never applied to the left. That in that example that you're giving, Facebook did lie. So I don't think there's anything that wrong with pointing that out.
Politico.
But what they do is
Politico lied, you mean?
Politico did lie. And I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing that out. The real abuse of this system was they had this form of fact check called needs context. So basically, anytime they had a fact that they didn't really like or they wanted to explain away, they would fact check it as wrong because it needs more context, meaning you're not giving more left-wing analysis of it. That was used. That's the biggest problem with the whole system, and that was used constantly. We never did those. We only called balls and strikes when it was clearly a lie, like that Politico article.
Yes.
And there's so many others like that. And even in that case, when we were right, and they know we're right because it's obvious to any sane person, they freaked out because they don't want anyone else getting in between them and their readership. And I understand that. But that's not even what the biggest problem was. The biggest problem was this pure abuse when there's an issue where there's no clear right or wrong. It depends on perspective. Yeah. And they use fact check to shut that down.
Neil Patel, the organizations that were a part of this third-party fact-checking operation, not just Check Your Fact, but AFP, which is a wire service, factcheck.org, Lead Stories, PolitiFact, Science Feedback, Reuters Fact Check, Televisa Univision, The Dispatch, and USA Today. How financially dependent do you think these organizations were on that contract with Facebook? In other words, do they exist? Do some of these organizations simply exist because Facebook was financing their existence?
Yeah, a couple of them. So some of them, as you noted, are news companies or wire services. And for them and for us, it was a relatively small portion of the business because we have a news company and 100 reporters and pumping out a lot of news articles. Besides, Check Your Fact was kind of a subsidiary. And there's a few that you listed that are in a similar boat to that. There are a few you listed that were completely dependent on this program, which will go away now.
So in other words, they're not long for this world unless they can figure out a way to make some other revenue.
Yeah, there's other programs. I think YouTube has one. And, by the way, Google. So this is positive news on the Facebook front. We had one fully scaled free speech platform once Elon Musk bought X, which was great, and I think had a huge effect on the last election. Sounds like Facebook's moving in that direction. Let's hope that's the case. That would be two. But the big problem is Google, and YouTube is highly censored. But Google search is the very biggest problem. And if you Google search right now problems in this fact check program, you won't be able to find them because all you get are left-leaning news organization results or left-leaning organization results. You won't find a Daily Caller article or a Breitbart article because they're buried. And so Google search is still actually the biggest problem as far as censorship goes in America. This, again, is a positive move in the right direction. I haven't heard any movement at Google, but that would be the big one.
That's the big one. And that's like, last I checked, something like 90% of all global search is done through Google. And as a result, humanity's mind is made up by what they find on that platform. And if they can't find the truth, it's very distorted.
100%. And it's this whole censorship industry. Wikipedia is another huge part of it. Wikipedia is dominated by the left. And, Wikipedia is the online encyclopedia. It's supposed to be where you go to get facts, right? But if Google pulls all their facts from Wikipedia, which every person who's ever looked into it even a tiny bit knows is pretty hard left, actually, then you're getting a totally distorted view of reality, and that's where we're at.
Right, and all of the all of the algorithms that scrape Wikipedia use it as a knowledge base for their content too. So artificial intelligence, even Grok on Twitter, on X, it relies on Wikipedia in part. The smart speaker perhaps in your house or your phone's smart responses, so much of them are informed by Wikipedia. They may not even tell you that up front, but that's where they're pulling it from. And as a result, it's a very distorted filter that's being served.
Absolutely. We're a country that's supposed to be about free flow of ideas and debate and expression. And as all that moved online, it started getting heavily censored, and it's had a hugely negative effect on the whole country.
All right. The great Neil Patel, the great and powerful Neil Patel. Sir, thank you very much for joining today. Good to talk to you as always.
Always great to talk to you, Vince. Thanks, man.